We're gonna call a meeting to order. For a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move.
I can second.
Question on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
About the minutes of our August 12th meeting.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Question on the minutes. Not all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Has any conflicts of interest, just let us know. For any public comments?
Anybody on the phone?
Any supervisors not seated as committee members that have any information for this committee?
Mr. Chair, I'm here for item 8. Do you want me to talk about that now or just when that item comes up?
Now we'll try to.
I'm sorry, what?
Probably now.
Okay, so item 8 is on your it's the first resolution, 5521. And the concept of this resolution was that I was getting a lot of questions myself from constituents, and then also seeing kind of, not that I really see what's going on in the clerk, but I realize that there's a lot of requests that come in on public comment, requests for public comments. So this resolution essentially makes the comments that we get in writing in our emails kind of before our board meetings a more streamlined, easily accessible process for people to just pop on the website. And we're redoing the website now or soon. So I imagine it being something that it's easily accessible, searchable by a keyword, however the technologists, webmasters want to write it. And so it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and it would just be, I think, streamlined for the clerk's office and streamlined for the public. And all I think I really need from you guys is just a pass it on to the full board without a recommendation even. And then my second question though on that would be, do we then amend the board minutes? And maybe this is a question for Vince or something, so that not the board minutes, the Tuesday agenda, so we can get it on Tuesday's meeting. So any questions? Does that make sense?
So one of the things is we do not, on this agenda, we don't have, can't go to the county board because this resolution is not on this agenda to pass it on. It says discussion of discussion possible action regarding new protocol for access to written public comments. There's no resolution here. I mean, you got a resolution, and if it's not notified as noticed as a resolution we're voting on today, I'm just concerned that how do we pass resolution to the, I don't know that we would need to, if we want to amend the agenda of the county board. And we don't even have the resolution on here. It's just discussion of this, and that's why I was hoping that Amy would be able to actually talk during discussion, because she's proposing a resolution, but it's not on the agenda.
There is discussion of possible action.
But it doesn't list there's a resolution. The action could be on the resolution, even though we don't have it. Just like we have an attorney that give us an opinion on, can we vote on this?
Unfortunately, Malia and Joe are both unavailable today.
Well, how high priority is this? Does it have to be on this month's county board?
I don't think it's a high priority, but I'm not the one writing the resolution. I don't see it as a high priority to amend the agenda.
Given that we do take action on something without court counsel's advice.
That's what I'd be a little concerned about, that we'd be doing this today without an attorney.
It may also involve the rules of order. I don't know.
That required by the afford a 2/3 vote to change them now. However, if we just got word, or Chad informed me that it'll probably be April before the website done. My thought would be, do we want to, it almost makes sense to say, we're going to change the rules of order, we're going to require a 2/3 vote to put on the April website that's available. Might make sense to wait until we have the new board. Put it in there. That way it wouldn't take 2/3 vote. Right.
We should really be discussing this when we get to the agenda item, right, Chair?
Yeah,
Yes, one of the things too,
rules for public, for public record requests, so we have to kind of look, do we look into that a little?
yeah, and what, because there is already, and I think we're getting out of the box, so we should talk about it during our agenda, but I would not have a problem that if Supervisor Middleton is going to stick with us for the meeting, that we would be able to talk to her about the resolution when we get to it.
yeah.
Okay, so I'll pop in on item 8 then. Is that what you're saying?
Item 9.
Item 9.
Was it 9? Okay. Okay.
All right, are there any announcements, any information? No, sir. Not on our agenda. Add any?
I think that's one of our standing items on agendas, isn't it?
I can say we sold some property for the government. Most of this should be saved almost for the board, And what we did too with it.
All right, how about a discussion regarding the creation of a policy review MOU?
Yeah, did one of you put this on the agenda, or is this something that just carries over? Because
I think I wanted this on here because Malia said there's some that are big, some that are small, but we don't have a protocol on how we look at these. I mean, all of a sudden I've got those ones in my briefcase, all of a sudden we got 30 of them. We go through them pretty fast, I think. But I mean, do we look some up every year? Do we do them every other? Do we do them quarterly?
I thought what we did this year was kind of the new protocol, at least new to me, was in June or so, we bring the ones you all want, which were the 5 or 6 big ones.
Big one, the trails and stuff.
The trail, that type of thing, and we review them then.
So,
At this committee.
right, so the process we put in place was in June, we review all those, if they've met them and all. In July, the outside agencies that you guys want to come present. And that's the start of the budget process. So that's what,
Come to see if they did anything.
yeah, that's what we did in 2021, and that was what I was operating under going forward, because that seemed to work well.
They don't present to this committee and the general government, or where do they present?
This year, I think we did, remember we merged them?
We did the joint session,
Oh, sure.
because you guys look at the MOUs for the compliance with the MOUs, and all general government looks at the funding. So we did joint sessions on the presentation. And we had to do 2 joint sessions this year because West Cap wasn't available when we had the other groups.
You may not have even been here.
One of them I might not have been here. Yeah.
But that is the protocol that we're operating under now, because to meet the board's needs, if you guys want me to change it for 2022, I can.
Should we have it in writing so we know it continues on, that we don't all of a sudden forget to do
We
it?
just want a policy.
Yeah, that it's in a policy.
Well, and I can definitely put that in. I can put it in the financial policies, because those come back up to general government in November for reevaluation anyway. So I
It's
can,
on our work plan.
I can put that in policy.
I think we should have it in there so that there is a procedure that at least we know.
And are you guys, before I put that in there, I mean, did that procedure work did you like that this year? Looking at them one month and having them present the next month?
At least they have to justify why they're getting them. Some justification.
Okay.
For measurements or whatever.
I just don't know if this committee needs to sit in joint sessions, though. I mean, that is a little cumbersome. But I don't know why we wouldn't just if the executives are just making sure MOUs are done properly, we don't need to be involved in general government in their discussion with them. That's not our job.
We didn't vote, but we listened.
Yeah, I guess as long as the information gets relayed from executive, if you think they're out of compliance to general government. this is-
We hear about it, or general government is gonna say, hey, here's the MOU, executive and administrations approved this MOU, and general government can go through to say, hey, administrator, Chad, are you guys, are they in compliance? I just don't.
The meetings are one right in front of the other, that we could stick around. Right?
Sure.
I mean, when they're stacked like that, that worked.
Unless having a policy would have some teeth in it that would say these need to be turned in. And if they're not.
Well, so for example, for an MOU right now, the administrator's got funding for fairgrounds in your budget.
Yes.
They are not in compliance with the MOU, right? Because
We don't have a new MOU. They're just working off the existing.
so off the existing MOU, but are they in compliance with the old MOU? Did they turn in their financials? So they're out of compliance with their MOU.
Tourism. in compliance.
Not as of, well, they got another month. And I guess to me, policy would be, that staff would need to tell us before the budgets get ready or we're funding it. I guess it'd be nice to know whether you guys feel like, or Corporation Council feels like an MOU is out of compliance, and someone should be told that, than us asking, right? I don't know, maybe there's other ones that aren't, we don't know.
It's taken us a long time even to get to this point with the MOU.
Yeah.
And we still can't,
Do anything.
if they
Pretty much.
decide not to turn them in,
Then,
just don't turn them in.
yeah, that's where I think if someone's out of compliance with the MOU, why are we funding them? That's what it comes down to. Right?
That's our only leverage, yeah.
We have a policy that said you're in compliance with the MOUs or no funding. Their policy.
So maybe we should keep this on our agenda and actually draft policy and then bring it back. Something where it feels like there's a lot of check and balance there to where then you could throw it onto the committee to,
And you guys know the situation with the fair.
oh, right.
It's up in the air right
Yeah.
now, right? So monitor that MOU, whatever it is one thing. As far as the MOU with the tourism, they're not in compliance yet, but the way it was written, they have to do it this year. Get the website up and diversify their board. And at mid-year, we were given a statement from their president that said, we will have it done this year.
That's our only leverage is the budget process, not funding. So said we got some teeth in it there.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
What do you got, John?
Is the MOUs, is that the reviewing and everything, the responsibility of our administrator?
No, we're saying it's this committee.
The MOU, putting an MOU together is the administrator's job to decide who gets MOUs. Administrator does them. Right? Right.
Yeah.
But we review them.
But we review them and we want to be able to say, hey, administrator, put a few more things in it.
Yeah, and probably right now, I think just as we've done with fair and with tourism, let you know,
Right.
but if you want it in a more formal policy, then we can look at what's the best timing for this. So that, you know, maybe MOU should be in compliance prior to September, so that before I start putting together the budget.
I think it might give you guys on your end, though, a little bit bigger hammer to go, just so you know, if you're not in compliance with the MOU, like general government, where they fund your budget, they have to tell them you're not in compliance, because it's policy.
Right. So we'll leave it on our agenda and Will someone be working on the creation of a policy?
Yeah, so I will wrap it. We're gonna have a few adjustments to the financial policy this year anyway for our general government and the board review. So I'll just wrap it into that. We'll put it in the financial policy. Most closely tied.
That'll just go under our work plan instead of under agenda, and when you're ready, we'll just talk about it someday, right?
I can see where the financial part of the MOU goes to Chad, but between that part and the general review, I thought that was always the administrator and the finance director.
Well, I will be the one reviewing it and then presenting it.
If they're in compliance or not, somebody will review it just to find that out, yeah.
It's just a more formal way.
And compliance would be our committee.
I think we took another step and said that we wanted to. I don't think we used to review them.
No, we never used to have executive committee meetings with Johansson.
You guys specifically said beginning of this year, you wanted to look at the big MOUs that funding was tied to, and you wanted to process for that, which is why we created the June and July review.
Yeah, because we didn't do it before. But we just heard about it.
All right. How about discussion and possible action regarding a new protocol for access to written public comment?
So here's a couple of thoughts I was thinking about for the process on here on out. Maybe what we do is for your next agenda, we put on, a agenda item discussion action and then on resolution 5521. And then as far as the website, Vince's point about the website in April got me thinking about our timeline on this. I want to make sure that somehow we at least give the web developers this, and I don't know how your timeline works for their work plan, but we don't want to like drop this on them at the end of the project. So Vince, do you think in their work that they're doing, having this committee, that really puts us, if you guys don't do it till November, then it goes to maybe the November board meeting?
Yeah,
And then
that's
would
not
that be
gonna,
good enough for them?
I don't think
I'm sorry?
that'll put us behind the 8 ball at all.
Okay,
If the website's gonna be completed, we're expecting around April. This should not be, I mean, we will have it designed so that things can be dropped in there and viewed by the public. That's part of their feature.
It's a component we're gonna use for some other things too, Supervisor Middleton. So it'll be an ability of the website. It'll just be basically turning the feature on and off for public comment, whatever the board
Okay.
decides. Because we're gonna have it for some other areas we need to address, like land information and stuff. We need to have that public ability to drop comments.
okay. So procedurally, are there any other questions that I should follow back up with on Malia that you guys had around the rules of order or the 2/3 vote? Or are we just does it make sense to put it on your next agenda and run it through specifically as discussion on resolution 5521?
I would just say that if you, and it's up to you all, but if you do it now, you're asking the current board to vote 2/3, get the change. in
That's why
rules of
That's
order.
why I think we should move it a month, right?
But anytime you
Anytime,
change the rules of order midstream,
yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Rules of order generally get done, generally,
Yep.
you don't change rules of order until the term's over and the new board changes the rules of order. So just personally, you might try to push this resolution through and it doesn't get 2/3 vote and then it's over. And, to me, this should wait personally. I don't see the urgency of this. This should wait till the board gets to do new rules of order. And just because there's a website being developed, like they said, they can change the website later if the new board wants to do this. To me, to change the rules of order, be this late in the year, at the end of the year, I see no urgency in this. Why not wait till April and change the rules of order when you typically are supposed to do it? But that's my opinion.
Well, yeah, no, I see that. It just seems like it's hard for me to imagine that it has to be a whole, I mean, this is just my thing, but to have to, to be able to allow the public to have easy access shouldn't be this complicated. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to,
Well, and here's my only comment. There's a very good chance come April, you know, we may not be doing public comment, virtual anymore, right? I mean, they may have to come into this boardroom too. I mean, we
well,
never,
I'm talking about the written ones that we do. That's what this would be.
well, I know, but my point is, written, we all get them, county board supervisors, we all get written public comments. They're addressed to us. And that's how they come. And personally, for our staff to sit there and hang on to them and now not only send them to us, but then there's just a lot of stuff I'd like to talk to staff about and talk to the corporation council about. And I just don't see an urgency to do this year out of our normal process. I mean, if this was an emergency, okay, yeah, we have to change the rules of order. I just don't know when else we change the rules of order during the midstream, especially so close to the.
There might be some state statutes on public records anyway.
Yeah, there could.
So I mean, those should maybe be referred to, and is that something we have to go by that we didn't do yet or something? I mean, if you get something in, I mean, I get 50, 60 emails a week, different comments and stuff. Do I forward them all to here then and save?
If I get written public comments to the chair, do I gotta now forward them to you if someone sends them to me and I respond? I think
Get
it's
pretty lengthy.
it's a pretty complicated issue for us to jump into this than just to say, oh, we're gonna post them on our website. I agree.
But I think we should.
Yeah, I don't think we should be posting email streams and things. I was just thinking the first letters that come in, dear supervisor Joe Schmo, blah, 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 blah. That's the one I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking of all the responses back that the supervisors may or may not have. I don't think that's
What about
appropriate.
not the responses, but what about someone that sends the chair concern about
Anything.
anything? Do I now have to, with this thing, do I have to now forward every chair letter I get on a public thing? I don't know. I think,
Well, when the clerk gets the comments that come into all of our supervisors, they get cataloged somewhere. So they're cataloging them and they're saving them, because then when a public person can make a request, they can say, give me all the public comments that came in on January 21, and they can produce them. So that's it. That would be the body of information that would go into this. But I agree, it is a complicated, like where's the line, but somehow to make it easily accessible so that the
Some
clerk's
send it
office.
to the clerk, some send it to us direct, and they send it to the clerk again.
right.
And then some of them are form letters where 50 people, I get ones that I just keep going down, they're the same. Just
I know.
form letter.
Yeah.
There's 50 of them.
Publish to the
Yeah.
public, here's what is a public record or a public comment for the board. You have to header it that way. You have to say, 'cause a lot of times I'll get an email, for example, where somebody just says, hey, administrator, I really don't like this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a public comment for the board. Is it a public record request? And so you almost need to have a process in place.
We gotta work
What's
through.
public?
Your call.
We gotta work through this. I personally think this is a big issue that if someone wants to deal with it, to me, I think you'd be better off personally is that you get this on some kind of a work plan through a committee and that we spend time working through the process than just with a resolution to amend the rules. But
We have to.
Yeah, I like that idea. Is that a committee? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt someone?
No, that's all right. I think there's state statutes that we gotta go by.
Seems like an environmental service.
Rules of order are executive. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. Ours is so short
Can
here.
we appoint it to a committee?
Yeah, see, look,
Teach
the
him.
committee's got 2 pages, we got 55.
well, that's what I hear is it sounds like it's more of a request that we should be working on something to figure it out. If this is something we should do, not do, how much detail. probably be better, you'd probably be more successful with what you're trying to get done than to try to ask for a vote and to get 2/3 to change the rules of order, because my hunch is it may fail.
Yeah, I
And
like that. I do like that. And I like the idea. What I like about that is that having someone else, another committee kind of hash through some of these things, like your questions. I mean, I'm writing these all down and I'm like, yeah, okay. So back to, would that be environmental services or executive?
Should be.
That's the clerk. The clerk is the one that has to do the public record, so it'd be general government.
General government?
It would either be executive or general government.
Yeah.
it'd probably be this committee. You're
Yeah.
talking about making a proposal to change the rules.
That is in our rules of order
That's in our rules of order,
for executive. to
that
change the
we
rules
could
of
work
order.
on it and say, have a presentation by April, ready for
The new board.
the new board, and just do it when there's a change of, when you do the rules of order. That, to me, that's a successful way to work through this and get it ready. But
Okay, so this committee works on it until, April or whatever. Maybe we'll be, have it done by January. But in the meantime, I think this is the process, take these questions and things to Malia and have her start noodling around things. And then would we come back at this next board, next exec in November and say, here's what we're thinking, let's get some more input?
Chair,
That makes sense?
Should have it combined, all the changes that want to be done for the new rules of order should be in there, because there's probably quite a few. We should start working on some of
if
them.
that's what I mean, I don't know if that's typically how we do it, or do you,
We wait till the beginning and start the fight.
or you do it in April when you do change, rules have changed, but you're saying do a little ahead. I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
I think we ought to analyze what the proposal is going to entail. I
Right?
mean, it may put a real burden on the clerk, for an example, producing some of these requests for information.
And if I can interject, we have technology coming into play in 2022 with the website and with the new clerk software that may provide some abilities and take workload off the clerk, which is what we're trying to do. So the capabilities of that technology may help along what you guys are trying to do, but we won't be able to start that till January, February, the technology.
I don't know if I'm saying you guys want to do this, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we need it, but if supervisors want it. But I'd also request, if we're going to study this, I guess, yeah, I could say it today, is what are other counties doing that? Like, that'd be my first question. Show me another county or other counties that are doing it, and let's see how they do
Well,
it
they do it.
before we invent go down this path of saying, hey, I would like to know that before.
There's quite a few state statutes on it.
I would just, what is the definition of a public comment versus a citizen's concern or a complaint?
Yeah.
Is it a comment on an issue that's coming before the board, like your comment would be before a meeting? Or is it a complaint of an issue or a process that's happening? That's going to be hard to weed out, which could cause a lot of staff time to be weeding through
That
all
out.
this. Yeah.
Because we get a lot of complaints, right? I get more complaints than public comment.
And we'll have to, my concern too is we have to review every one of these things before we post them, because, legal's gonna have to look at them and say, can we share that information? Is there something in there that's confidential, inappropriate, or whatever? Or do we just, whatever they send us, do we post it? I'm just thinking, I don't know what the review process is gonna be, who all has to review them.
And one of my concerns, Vince, would also be, is it factual? But my thing is, what value does this bring? If someone from the public wants to make public comment and have it part of the record with our technology now, they can show up. It's like the old public comment years ago. You would walk in here, you'd say public comment in front of us, and it'd walk out the door. There's no record of it, right? So now we say public comment, you got to show up at the county board meeting and make public comment. That's where public comment is. The definition of public comment is you come to the county board and now you make your public comment, and you can do it on a recording now which is saved forever. So if you want that public comment saved, someone can go look at it, there's your opportunity. Now, to open the door up, to let hundreds of people to write public comments now that can be made part of the record and document the paperwork. I mean, shoot, we could get, and when we get controversial issues, you could have hundreds and hundreds of people doing multiple groups. And I think
Of the form letter stuff.
if you want your public comment heard by the county board and you want it recorded, we have a great opportunity. You show up, make your public comment. And if someone wants to read a letter that you wrote, because you can't be here, supervisor, or someone, I don't know if supervisors can make public comment. There's a lot of ways that you can get your public comment in the record. So that's my first thought was, what's the value of allowing people to do it this way? And then to go look at it. I don't know what the public value is, but
That's only half of it. What they want to do is come back and look all this up. See, so your half is, here it's recorded. But they call the clerk and say, you find it for me. That's what I'm looking at. When that request comes in, I remember someone saying this, okay, you're going to spend $2 million on this. But I don't know what meeting it was or whatever. Can you find it for me? Because it's a public record. So now she's got to go back and find these somewhere. I think that's what we're looking at. This is more of a request after the fact. That people come in and say, okay, you had a meeting 2 months ago. What did you say?
Is that why?
That's what this is a request.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yep. Kim's right.
It happened 2 years ago. They said yes, but on that meeting 2 years ago, you said
Who from
this.
the public came in and talked about it? Public, right?
The public
Yeah, so
can come in and ask her about anything we've done, any committee meeting, anything, anytime. So they can come in and ask about one. When did you first look at the chart? Well, that was 2002. I want to see all the paperwork. She has to go find it all. Look at it.
I see. So there's
That's what we're looking at.
there's a big load there that would be thrown onto our staff or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're outsourcing all that Kim's talking about to the public that particularly wants it, especially if, like Chad's talking about, we have a searchable and you could put in a keyword. The public is able to completely be self-sufficient and we don't even have to bug the clerk.
And that's the opportunity with the technology. We have to
Yep.
get it and we have to test it, but
It has to be scanned in and done.
well,
We have to find it.
our hope is we can come up with a process that takes the burden off the clerk, but also provides more transparency to the public.
Sure.
But a lot of it's going to depend on what the technology can accomplish.
So it's complicated.
It's those little books that you see on the shelves, like we get. And you got to go back and look each one up. That's where I find stuff. You pick one out and read it from 2004. Okay, oh, there it is. That's when we did this stuff. But they come in and ask her. She wasn't here in
My
2004.
point is what's the point of someone wanting to look up what someone else said at a public hearing?
Oh, they do it all the time.
That's-
They want because.
Yeah, they're gonna do that, and it's that's their decision to make,
No,
so,
no.
sorry, I mean, if Kim,
No,
Kim
it's
was
not.
interrupting.
Because they're costing our, my point is someone comes in and makes public comment like we used to do a year ago, 2 years ago. They'd come in and make public comment, we'd hear it. Okay, that's who they're trying to affect with their public comment is us. What's the reason for wanting it to have written comment now? And what does it serve to go back and to say, hey, Joe, back a year ago, wrote a public comment to us. I don't like the color of the blacktop and the yellow you use, Mo. That's a public comment. What's the value? What's the value of someone saying, I want to have that information? I want to go back and see Joe complained about the paint that Mo was using on the street.
That would be a state statute that it's a public record because it happened in a public meeting.
It's also a complaint. That's
Yeah.
what Mo was talking
But I mean,
about.
that's where you have to get a complaint. But I think the statutes that we're looking at say if you're having like this meeting now, it has to be recorded. Boom, boom, boom. So somebody can ask about it, whatever.
It didn't have to be recorded. That was a choice. That's not state statute. We decided.
No, but the minutes are and stuff.
The minutes, but not public comment.
No.
You don't,
But if it was said here,
not a public hearing.
it's not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing.
Clerk would just say we had 3 people.
Yeah, public,
20 people.
yeah, public hearings are, like you guys do a lot of public hearings. Everything's documented.
That's documented.
These are
It's
someone
recorded.
saying, hey, I don't like your CAFO ordinance.
Yeah.
Right? we're gonna write down every CAFO letter that we have, and for some of them,
Trail
and to go back and, someone wants to go back and pull them out.
However, back to the Attorney General's guidance on open records, if we receive a document, we're then the custodian of the document, and we have to save it, and we have to provide it a public records request.
Sure.
So then if they did do it in writing, and it was 10 years ago, she's gotta find it somewhere.
Yeah, we can purge after a certain point and all, but we have, there's
Yeah,
there's a big guiding book on how you do it.
how you do it, yeah.
I think we just, yeah, it's complicated
So
enough that we need
there's,
to take.
there's a lot of stuff.
There's a
into
lot of
that.
stuff to
To
work
that,
through.
yeah.
Do we want to put this on our work plan, Russ, this year?
Yeah, I think we'll leave it in this committee and
Digest it some more.
keep, discuss it. I mean, we probably need corp counsel.
I
Present for the meeting.
I think in the clerk, maybe look at some of that public record stuff that you have to go by, so that we know.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I think John's trying to pop in. I keep seeing him, his caller. Is he? Let's check and see.
I'm listening, and I hope we can move on to the agenda.
Well, we can, John.
Okay.
All right, so for right now, we're just gonna say it stays in this committee. It'll be on our agenda.
So, and then would you like me to get back with Corp Counsel with these? I was taking notes on everybody's. Is that a good next step? Just pass that on to her?
Yeah,
Like,
and
you
I'll.
want to-
Go ahead if you want.
You want to work on it, work on it.
Yep.
Well, I can at least get it started, but I just wanted to make sure I knew the process of pushing, so if because she wasn't here. So does that make sense?
Well, she'll answer your questions that we can.
But really,
The biggest
I
thing.
think most of your work, I mean, you would want to work, if you want to be part of, I don't know, I mean, typically as a supervisor, work with the corporation council on this, it should be worked on committee, not.
Yeah, I think what staff is gonna need is we're gonna need the committee to tell us what they want us to achieve. And then let us work on the mechanics and the technology on how to achieve it, and let you know if it's achievable.
So I think
If we
Amy's,
can do it or can't do it.
Amy's
So
could
to
be
answer
getting
the
to
question,
share
Yeah,
to the committee what you want.
Yeah.
Because it has to be worked on in the committee.
Okay.
I think you'd be better off if you send all your stuff to the committee, and the committee works on it.
Okay.
other questions.
Well, it took a while. We got it figured out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let's have an update on the sports rec comp.
Yeah, I don't think we had a meeting last month, right? So you didn't hear.
No, we didn't have that.
We did meet with SFA. They came in, we met with them, and they've begun their study, and we had a very, I think, productive session. We invited stakeholder groups, which included sports organizations in the county, community leaders, school athletic directors, and it was pretty unanimous in the support of the concept. Even we thought maybe the school administrators would be, is that going to be competitive?
That's John.
And we got their feedback. Now SFA is doing their research into the numbers of people who participate, how far away people would travel to do it here. We're going to look at a variety of activities, events, sports, and so on. And they'll be able to give us that data. That data alone is going to be valuable to PTAG, because they're going to look at equestrian, ATV, UTV uses, walkers, skiers. They're going to look at all that stuff. So it's going to be useful. It also blended in with what Amory is requesting. They're looking at a swimming facility, rehabilitation facility, and so on in Amory. So this concept of a giant complex may be able to be whittled down to a smaller complex, but then maybe we have, for an example, this is just an idea, maybe the swimming concept works in Amory, maybe the ATV, UTV intensive program recommended by PTAG in Sterling, if we have a centralized sports complex with other activities. So The wheels are turning. SFA will get their results, preliminary results to us within the next month. And so I'm optimistic that we'll have some good data.
Questions, comments?
I attended one of the early morning meetings just as representing supervisors. It's good that the administration asked for me to be there because I think it helps by, they come into the area and they don't really understand Polk County until they start. But it was helpful for, I think, me to sit there and say, yeah, I don't think the county board would, kind of give them a makeup of county board. We have villages, we have townships we represent. Would people drive from Amory to go to a card game and here, would it be seniors? They had a lot of questions. Would people travel from Osceola to Balsam Lake, or would someone from Frederick travel? And, they really asked a lot of questions, and I thought they were very thorough. And the amount of information and the way they put it together, I think, like Vince said, I think it'll be very valuable, regardless of whether they say do it or don't do it. And they did say this was at least a 5 to 10 year, this is how long it would take to develop a plan in a county like this. And very experienced company. I mean, they unbelievable what kind of information they pull from in these circles and these. It was very interesting that. I think what I saw so far was really good. She didn't do the trails. Huh? Yeah, she had the trails. Yeah, and you had two gals from Florida up here talking to us. Yeah. But big company, and they definitely got their stuff together. I felt like very positive.
They know about snowmobiling.
Well,
I don't know that those two gals know much about snowmobiling, but the company has got, they manage some facilities up in the Midwest.
a couple in Wisconsin. They do it all. And the one lady had lived up in, or up here.
Yeah.
What's the name? Who is this company?
Sports Facilities Advisors, SFA.
All right, looks like we're bringing up a PowerPoint. For our next agenda item, all a discussion regarding ARPA.
Know your eyesight is all superior, but I will give you a. Many of you saw this yesterday. It's already been changed a little bit. One that's not on there under, well, let me start with the beginning. This is the categories that the board chose to be created. We kind of split up the different projects. As you recall, these projects come in from a variety of people or groups. Some of them are detailed, some of them are not. Some of them are simply as, hey, we need housing for people with mental health issues. Maybe a very worthy cause, but I don't have a lot of detail yet as to what that would cost, what it would look like, and so on. So we kind of list them on there. But you can see the 4 categories. Some of them, environment, water quality, those top 4 were submitted by Bob and his staff. So they put together a funding request and so on. Some of these things are actually on the budget for you all to decide, do we want to fund those? Those are the board optional programs that you might say, hey, I think that the administrator didn't approve these yet. But you all may say, we think this is important, put it on there. What that means is if you say we want to do these, you have a choice. You could say we're going to pull this out of general fund, we're going to pull it out of ARPA money, or we're going to pull it in some cases out of the asset protection fund, or we're going to bond for it, whatever the case may be. You can see those there. One that is not on here, and Mo reminded me, is what is it, County B? County B. Mo has proposed that County B could be redone. For like 1.2 million. So I'll add that on here prior to the board meeting.
And add it? You're adding it where?
in infrastructure. That would be in the,
Okay, yeah.
and for Mr. O'Connell, you know, he said, hey, the 5-year CIP, so we could look at 2022 and start, you know, just look at that. If
A head or two, because I
Yeah.
mean, those they did the studies and got the amounts and everything already
Right.
done. It saves the staff some work.
um,
Look at that whole CIP, I think.
for some of you that may have seen this earlier, I did add broadband expansion infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that in HHS. The Wisconsin Counties Association Conference of some of the supervisors attended talked about broadband, and he said one of the biggest concerns is you can't trust the maps that are out there because they don't tell you the truth. In other words, they monitor high-speed internet. If one location has high-speed internet, they take a census tract and say that area has it. So Polk County looks pretty darn good. In reality, we know it's not good. We should have next month a new map, or at least the data to prepare the map, showing in most cases to the street level where they have access to high-speed internet. They also, we hope to have information, the cost, because if it's too costly for our citizens to have it, then they don't have access to it. You know, and so this is going to be a good thing. It will give us some leverage over internet service providers. It will help us identify priorities and opportunities where we may want to say, what can we do with ARPA money or other money to incent expansion of broadband into most needed areas? So I did add that on. The second page, because there is a lot of individual interest and they're worthy projects, local community projects, or people with local needs have submitted some. Again, I think the board agreed that we want a county-centric approach first, but we also want to know and recognize what are the local community projects. So I've listed those on there. See, there's a vast range of projects. They're not in any particular order. So the purpose is for you all to be aware of these. We are not going to do a deep dive on every one of these single projects. However, if your committee or the board comes back and says, I think this project and infrastructure are a priority, if you guys vote on that, we'll start doing the deep dive into what it would take and how much it would cost, pros and cons. And that might be something that public works would do. They might focus on infrastructure. Environmental services will look at the water quality and lakes and so on. So that, you know, we don't want to rush this through, any unnecessary rush, but we do want feedback now and some thought from each committee to present to us, say, here's what we think are important. Could you give us more information? And, you know, of course, at any point, you guys can decide to vote on something, but I think by that, we have a process in which people will start to get an idea of what's most important.
Some of these things cross over.
Yeah,
Just looking at like the LiDAR mapping, now that'll cross over to parks, trails,
sure.
infrastructure. I mean, that one's kind of a catch-all for us.
Yes. So it's not really by committee. Remember, we just created these categories, but obviously that
Gotta
category.
start somewhere
Yeah.
to push it, yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean environmental services couldn't recommend something related to infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that would be one.
Yeah.
The LiDAR, because they're gonna do the culverts, everything, all that stuff on this next. That's gonna help. And all of us on a lot of stuff. So I mean, there is some things crossover, and I think that has to be just brought up on each one.
Well, and
You know,
what,
there's one example.
and what we tried to do at Public Safety and Environmental Services and HHS is you got the highlighted things that might be of interest to your committee. And some committees got the same thing because they do cross over.
Yeah, that crosses over to everything, because the radios too, I think. Isn't that coming up, that these microwave radios?
Yeah.
That's for everybody too, so
that's on your
5-year, but
Well, yeah, it's on, as an optional service on your option, on your budget. And if you say, we think that should be in the budget, then you can decide how do we pay?
Yeah.
Is it ARPA, general fund?
Because that ties into the new 911 too. Radio, just so we gotta start getting, that'll be pretty soon. Wait, you look how many wires are getting put in the ground all over. I mean, they're moving, getting it in there.
So I think that, the idea is every committee meeting, we'll have an ARPA section on there. And if the chairs say, what are your thoughts? Let's talk about it. You guys come to a consensus of what you think is the priority. That will give staff direction as to what we start digging into.
The CIP list with this too then.
See, well, we just put the 5-year CIP on here because.
Okay,
the list-
how many people don't have that list?
Well, it's in your budget books that came out.
Is it in there? Okay. When do we get those?
They're out, so.
Oh, but
It'll be,
I need a 200 to haul it out.
I added them to the Polk County board packet,
Okay.
so if you want to post them separately on.
I just thought everybody has that too, because that's been gone through for a 5-year study. We did that. I mean, staff's been a lot of work. We should look at that too. I mean, just because there's some different monies coming in, that was a projection that we were gonna do. But I just think we should keep some of those and not try to do all new stuff and then go, oh, we forgot to fix this. We forgot to fix the roof. We didn't fix this. Where we already have our priorities kind of set with that 5-year deal.
that's what the committee can
And discuss, I
Discuss.
think, each one.
present to the board.
Yep.
We'll do the deeper dive into some of these things and make whatever you want us to do, a recommendation or.
Bank on that second half of the money because it might not be there.
That's right.
That might be it.
All right, our next thing on our agenda is a closed session for the county.
All right. And I'm gonna have to, give me just a couple minutes since Johnny's on the phone.
Should we, before we do that, should we review and update our work plan and identify subjects for next? And tunes out, I can't all it's gonna be as a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on our.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'll have to sign off on closed session. And I'm just going into my county, Wisconsin County meeting, so I'll check with the clerk later. Thank you.
All right. Right. So on our work plan, are we gonna put this protocol for access to public comment on our work plan to try to
We should work it out.
see whether it's gonna go anywhere or not?
Yeah, we better for public requests. That way we're looking at it. I know what's wanted, what's needed.
So just, what you're saying is
Is it in our rules of order or is it state statute?
so you want to just have on our work plan, public comment? Is that what it is? What do you,
Access to written public comment?
Just won't put it on the agenda.
Put it on the agenda.
Well,
so-
keep it on the agenda, I thought we said we were gonna put it on our work plan.
So Supervisor O'Connell, and I think somebody else said, should we start looking at the rules of order prior to April? Should we put rules of order review on the work plan and then that's just part of the rules of order review? You want to start looking at rules of order before April? I know that was said by a person or two.
Some of the years, yeah, they started looking at those to find out the ones that didn't work and then they put it in there as you should look at these. If you remember, we had a few.
Yeah.
Pat Schmidt would
Good
have a few.
recommendations for the next board.
Yeah, and it was just recommendations.
Anything, just some things that kind of didn't work for us.
that's, I
Recommend
like
take a
that.
look
Yeah.
at 'em.
Yeah, that's what I think we.
So
don't
rules of order, we're basically going to review rules of order, but obviously,
Recommendation.
and one of the recommendations is Supervisor Middleton's one is that she wants us to specifically look at
Public comment.
public comment and documenting it and wait.
Yeah.
If we can give Malia, give council advice on it, we'll have
Rules of
some.
order.
That's more of a work plan topic than
Yeah.
the public
Yeah.
comment thing is.
Yeah.
So,
But that way, then you come in,
We get it churning.
yeah, but a new board can look at, okay, this didn't work, this didn't work.
So
this didn't
each
work.
year, when you guys want to, I guess it would be every 2 years, what month do you want to start looking at the rules board and we'll start building it? Starting in November through March or?
Probably
Okay.
3
Or
months.
wait till after your budget season's over and you know,
And throw it in there. yeah.
throw it in starting in December, maybe.
December to March.
Because in December, you got nothing to do.
Yeah.
I do have to wait by my phone and make sure it rings.
Because the auditors are never done till July, so.
anything else for the work plan?
You want this ARPA project stuff on there yet? And the CIP stuff?
That's on every.
That's on everybody's, isn't it?
Every month until,
And we've got a cow every month, right?
At some point, I don't know when the point is, but at some point, someone's gonna have to say, hey, we're gonna start prioritizing these, right?
Yeah.
And scoring them. I'm sure we're gonna get the dots. And we'll be putting them up on a big piece of paper and to me, I would think that would work the best. As much as I love the dots.
I would, what?
Wasn't all this ARPA stuff.
Oh, God, no. We go by our CIP and that stuff. I don't think we should even use it.
Well,
That's my thoughts.
all right, but where are we at? We're
That's
on
my-
the review and update of the work plan somehow. So
That'll just come.
isn't ARPA funds on everyone's agenda every month? No, we agreed to do, so I don't think we needed it in our work.
Yeah, it's a standing thing. It's an agenda item and not a.
All right, how about agenda subject matters for the next meeting? I'll put them to-
Presently, I didn't see anything unless you guys think of something that calls for a November meeting.
Won't have enough.
We're not gonna meet just to go to rules of order one
No.
meeting.
No.
Have more.
Yeah.
We'll just see if a meeting is needed. All right, now we're ready for our closed session. We've got nothing else on the agenda except
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Second that.
Let's do per statute 936-10D and 985-1C and E. We should put that in our motions, I think.
whoever. Second, wait, first and second.
Yeah.
Supposed to have a roll call vote. Fair name.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Think John tuned out, didn't he?
He did, and I
John went with it.
I stopped the video.
Work plan on the back. Just remember. So,
All right, we're gonna review and we need to make any announcements. Session. No. There are a couple of things we need to take a look at on work plan topics that are possible.
that one, the government security's been on their customer service. I think we kind of looking at.
We, and that's where my question, Chair, on that stuff is, we don't hear a lot about it. Maybe this ain't the committee, but when do we start hearing about what's going on with the construction?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the mechanic,
what committee is that going through, your updates?
that would be general government.
General government only? Okay.
Yeah, they do the buildings, right?
Fine, then I don't need to hear about it today.
I do.
I don't have to stop for the general government.
It's not after this one. You screw up a whole nother day doing
You
that.
can watch it on tape.
We're
If
actually,
I'm at work, I can watch it on tape.
we're actually talking about work plan. Work
For
plan items and where they, what committee they should be in or if
Yeah.
someone should be working on, not to take a dive into.
No. So the security.
So government center
service.
security, is that part of the remodel?
Yes.
Okay, so the general government will be getting those updates
So we can take that off of ours.
and customer service.
Part of the remodel. I mean, as far as the physical customer service.
Physical part.
I'm all-
So that physical part, but I mean, You got all these people are worried about where they're gonna get moved and shuffled and all that.
So under customer
So I want
service,
some input to that.
under customer service, one of the things that I find, and I know I've talked to the administrator about, is the opportunity, because just even yesterday in general government, we have someone shows up and gets up in public comment and says, the county's got $8 million from ARPA money sitting there, and we have $1.5 million from the lime quarry sale that we could use for the recycling center. It's misinformation. So we've talked about that
Public information
officer thing,
Yeah.
you know, and I just want to make sure that's on a work plan somewhere, that it's happening, because that's what I spend probably half of my time on, is writing letters back to people, correcting their misinformation. So where does that fall in? Would that be on a work plan, or is that just,
Well, it was in our budget last year, and I talked about it yesterday. Our budget this year, we actually met last night, and we will begin the hiring process.
so you're actually going to do that?
Yeah.
Because we don't have to, it doesn't have to be part of a work.
So would
plan.
that person then be the one that sits out by the door?
No.
Okay.
We'll still have a person out there. That's, Natalie right now.
Yeah.
She needs public coming in, kind of receptionist to direct people. This job, one, we've got a couple of big things. This website coming up, implementation, rollout of that's going to be key. That person will be updating the website. Our website doesn't get updated now, except for what Lisa does on the meetings. So that's going to be an important role. The other thing is university program, where we will market or rebrand the county based on input from you all and the citizens as to what is this county going to look like, what do we want to, how do we want to brand it. That's where the University of Wisconsin is going to help us. Public information officer title is be responsible for that. Chad is our point person, but the day-to-day hands-on work will be that. But you're right. There's so many things that come out. Right now, we're kind of dysfunctional when it comes to that communication with the public. I can have Tammy type up something and send it to the newspapers, and I got to call somebody in public health or behavioral health or somebody that knows how to work our website or Facebook and post it there. So we'll have that person.
Because it falls into the same thing like going on with the Stour Trail. So Stour Trail's got signs up, right? You can go horseback riding on it now. But you go to the tourism, we pay them $70,000 a year to tourism. Go to tourism, there's nothing on there saying that that trail is open for equestrian. So, it's something that simple is how does the public know that we have a new use on a trail in Polk County?
Or do we have a public hearing for it? Because we always have the neighbors come in. Nobody told me. Like when we have a public hearing for the trail, for anything, any other public hearings, I can't find them on our website. So they're not put on there. They're in the paper.
But it's really the agencies communicating. So who from the county, my question was to you guys, is who's from the county told tourism? Which told them?
Yeah, just this week.
Oh, okay. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, how do you get the correct information out on?
And the snowmobile trails turn over right away. They know if they're open.
So do you want this on our agenda, or?
Well, that's what I didn't know is that, but if it sounds like the administrator's working it all out, so it doesn't need to be.
So what if we changed it to an agenda item later in the year to say review to enhancements in customer service and give us time to get this stuff in place? Maybe that's what it should be.
We don't have public hearings listed on our website. So we got rezonings and that, and I get people calling me because I'm the chair and go, why weren't we notified? I didn't know this land was for sale. And it's at a public auction and everything. I mean,
So the perfect
and the
time,
neighbors were notified. And you go like,
Service is pretty broad is what you're saying.
it's pretty broad, yeah.
this would be the perfect time to do it this time next year, because you're right before budget. And then if there's something you said, no, that's got to be improved. We want you to do this. So my suggestion would be add an agenda item for October 2022, review county customer service or something like that. And that way you can look at all the things the administrators.
See if it's been done. Okay. Because now we got the signs going up for the boat landings, all this other stuff. That gets out to the public.
All right, how about, we got something going on procedure and policy regarding review of MOU.
Yep, we discussed that earlier. How about the moving of the buildings, the use of this building over here and some of that, so we don't have to displace the people here? Is that in the works anywhere?
Yeah.
That's in the
And
construction.
the chair wants me to address what you touched on is a very sensitive topic to me is the rumor mill about who's getting moved and where.
They're all just going crazy that they're not gonna have any room to move or do anything. And
Well,
I keep it going just so you got something to do.
I would just say that's the example.
That's example of what's happening here.
Of you're talking to one or two people or a department.
Or a different department, we're all worried about
Something
going.
that's not true. They go out, spread it, and then next thing you know, I've got people from every different
Like,
division
right
calling
down
up
the line.
saying,
The
this
other day.
is terrible. We'll quit if you
Yeah,
do this.
that's
Well,
right.
you know, it's like, calm down here, folks.
Yeah, I just went to
Where,
every,
where are we at on the agenda?
we're on the methamphetamine, do we add that to or not, or is that somebody else?
On our work plan.
That's on the work plan.
That's what you're doing at committee of the whole.
Potential, possible, additional 2021 executive committee work plan.
Okay.
We got something going on it, don't we?
So what we do, again, that's a new process we put in place this year, is we have a schedule where we update each committee regarding methamphetamine. And then monthly, you get the methamphetamine statistics, which will continue to improve. I think we've addressed that issue on the work plan,
Okay.
because we now have an update process for each committee, and we now have the monthly process. Unless you guys, but that's kind of what you guys tasked us with
And I
doing.
talked to you a little bit about, I think a little bit of it, though, of our charts that we're doing, I talked to Chad, is that this all started off as a meth epidemic, and now we have alcohol and marijuana statistics too. And personally, I don't hear the public screaming that marijuana is an epidemic or drinking is an epidemic. And
But it is.
what's that?
But drinking is. I
Oh,
think
yeah, but
that's,
it's legal.
no, it's the schools, the kids,
Well,
senior parties.
The only thing is, budget priority number one is substance abuse prevention and reduction.
I get it.
And so,
You
I
guys
mean, that's
want to
why,
lump it all together. I just think
Yeah.
we
But I
lose
do-
our focus on meth. which
but I
is-
do agree, there needs to be charts that focus in on meth. And as we
Yes.
enhance our data collection and able to do that, those charts will get better.
Sure, okay.
What I gave you is pretty rudimentary, and I apologize, but it's like building it from scratch, but it will get better. You know, as the chair and I discussed, we are going to do some specific call outs regarding that.
All right, back to our agenda.
What number are we on?
We are on number 15.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, it.
Yeah, I had to do it, see what number. I couldn't have it.
And adjourned at 10:37.
We're moving everybody around.